It isn't a surprise to say that the people that work at Dogs Trust are dog lovers.
Yeah.
And you tend to find that people that love dogs also tend to care for the environment as
Yeah.
well. And identify, yes, I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to answer the question unless you want to do it. The impact of climate change on our ecosystems is going to have an impact on everybody. And how it will affect dogs could be quite significant because rising temperatures, rising costs, there's going to be a bigger risk of diseases and other health-related issues that are going to impact dogs in the short term. It's based on the research and the forecasts that are out there. It's only going to get warmer. So if that's the case, then dogs are going to be more at risk of heat stroke and other health-related issues like that. For example, in other roles, you're probably looking more at the business benefit, the financial benefit maybe, and the environmental benefit being secondary.
How do you explain to stakeholders that a healthy planet is just as important for the dogs that we care for? Obviously, for me, it's probably quite obvious. For you, it's probably quite obvious, but there are some people that don't get it.
Of course, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Leaf Media Global Podcast, where we spotlight leaders solving the climate crisis and social challenges through bold strategies. This podcast is produced by Leaf Media and powered by Greenly, a leading ESG platform turning climate pledges into action. Trusted by companies worldwide, Greenly delivers automated GHG reporting, CSRD, SBTi compliance, and tools spanning supply chains to product life cycles. I'm your host, Ben Simpson, Climate Engagement Manager at Greenly. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our show wherever you're watching or listening. So today is extremely exciting. We're speaking to Stephen Last, Environmental and Sustainability Manager at Dogs Trust, the UK's largest dog welfare charity. And joining us is a special guest who's here to keep us company as we discuss sustainability efforts and their impact on the future of the dog welfare. So thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you.
We have a very special guest in the building today.
She's the reason we're here, isn't it?
It's the only reason I'm here. No, I'm joking. But obviously, welcome to the pod. Can you kind of introduce yourself, introduce Sapphire, and
Well, I mean, let's start off with the most important guest.
Please.
This is Sapphire. She's an Alaskan Malamute. Sappy, up, sit. Do you want to say hello? Speak. Good girl. And yes, as you can see, she's got a lot of energy. She's got that BDE, the big dog energy. And I'm Stephen.
Hello.
Basically the supporting cast in this duo. And I am driving sustainability at Dogs Trust.
Amazing.
And I'm here to talk about
That's incredible.
what we're doing.
And obviously, welcome, Sapphire. You are more than welcome to come back for every podcast that I do. So you've been in sustainability for 7 years now.
Yep.
And first starting at Deliveroo, then moving to Sodexo.
Sodexo. A French company.
That's it, Sodexo. No, Greenly will attack me for that one, not pronouncing that right. What made you jump from doing something else to this sustainability-focused role?
It's important to have motivation when you get up in the morning and also to have meaning and purpose in terms of how you're spending your time. And I felt as though, again, when you grow up, you're still figuring out who you are. And it wasn't until I would say my early 20s that I started to, have a clearer sense of who I am, what I want to do and what I care most about. And that's when I realized that there's no bigger challenge in our lifetime than tackling climate change because it's going to affect every living thing on this planet. And I wanted to spend my time or dedicate my time towards tackling that. So I came from an ops background initially. So there was some crossover when transitioning into a sustainability role in terms of operational efficiency and optimization. But I was really looking for that sense of purpose, I guess, that motivation to get up every morning and feel like that you're not doing a job. And I don't have that feeling, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve. So I'm very happy in that sense.
A nice drive.
And exactly, have that drive, to achieve something that's, significant, that's important. And that's why I took the time outside of my role to upskill and then eventually transition into a sustainability-focused role, which I did during my time at Deliveroo. And then, of course, Deliveroo, Stexo, now Dogs Trust, all three very different environments. But obviously my time at Dogs Trust has probably been the most meaningful to me because as a dog owner and as someone that loves dogs, there's few better combinations
It's
than
better being around dogs
supporting
than humans
sometimes. Yeah, there's few better combinations than working for a charity that is doing its best to improve dog welfare, but also at the same time, in my role specifically, reducing our environmental impact as well. So it's a win-win from my
it's
perspective.
definitely a double win. And then since you've been at Dogs Trust, so November 2021, right? So what drew you specifically to wanting to work at Dogs Trust, apart from the dogs, obviously?
Yeah.
And maybe we can also hear like a little bit about the animals that have shaped your view of sustainability in the charity space.
So when I had the opportunity to join Dogs Trust, it was the first time that they'd hired anyone to look at sustainability for the charity. So there was that opportunity to build something from the ground up, and also put all of the pieces together of the puzzle and then decide where do we go from there. So that for me was a really exciting opportunity to do that and have the opportunities to kind of, set the direction and the course of where we go on our sustainability journey. So from a professional standpoint, it was a huge opportunity. And then obviously on a personal level, it was about understanding, how does sustainability and dog welfare, like what does that interaction look like in terms of the impact, how they're interconnected, what is the benefits and also the challenges for Dogs Trust as a charity, as focusing on dog welfare. So it's been a big learning experience along that journey of understanding more in depth about the importance of sustainability to dog welfare and the importance to us as a charity to become more sustainable and more efficient in terms of how we operate. So it's been a big learning journey, and we're still only at the beginning of this. That's why when I joined at the end of 2021, it's only been a couple of years, and we've made some great progress, but we've realized based on our longer term ambitions, we've still got
it's a big journey.
Long way to go.
Yeah, and you see when you saw all these big corporates and everything like that, and they're not, they have a little bit but not much and something like that, but they've got massive employee counts, and you're like, you've got a big task above your head. So obviously you saying that you went back and they didn't really have much in place. So obviously you've come in with knowledge and you've come in hoping to drive ambition and within the business. Was there any momentum at Dogs Trust? Was there much going on, or were you going in like, here we go, this is going to be a big tall ask, but kind of I'm ready for the challenge?
It was, I think it was the ideal time to join the Dogs Trust at the time, because it seemed as though many other animal welfare charities were also looking to, especially the larger ones, were looking to hire sustainability focused roles. So I think there was a bit of a movement at the time. I'm guessing as a result of the climate emergency in 2019, and then of course coming out of the lockdowns did it. Once again, there was more focus and more emphasis. Exactly, kind of put back on the importance of sustainability. So when I joined, again, from learning during my time there in those initial 6 months, I wanted to understand, what we've done so far, where we currently are, what is our baseline. And thankfully, there are certain areas where we're really strong in. For example, we have 22 rehoming centres across the UK, and they come in all different shapes, sizes, and different locations. And over the last 10 to 15 years, Dogs Trust have done an amazing job of making sure that energy efficiency and sustainable design have been incorporated into the build of our rehoming centres. So most of them have like an energy rating of between A and B, which is quite incredible for what they do.
Is that right at the start? Yeah, you're kind of trying to put that in.
This was like it's done historically. So I'm coming in and learning this, and I'm like, oh wow, like there's already a lot of great work that's been done. 2 of them were built to BREEAM standard, Loughborough and Shrewsbury. So our property team and our operations teams have done a great job initially of kind of giving us an upper hand in terms of, as part of this transition, of already preparing our rehoming centres, most of them at least, for the journey that we're about to go on. And of course, we've got 32 retail shops, and they focus on reselling, reusing, and recycling, items and donations that they get. So again, that's another great example of sustainability. So there was already again, I'll come back to the puzzle example. There was already some of these key pieces there. My journey in that first 6 to 12 months was to understand what all of the puzzles are, what are the gaps, try and plug those gaps, and then try and help build a foundation that we can then build on our sustainability journey.
I think it's one of those where, especially in the charity work and charity sector, I reckon you see people trying their best. I think sometimes you do see them, they're trying to do initiatives like the reduce, recycle and everything like that. I've spoken to some corporates, it's like, well, we're doing recycling. And it's like, what? Do more. Do you know what I mean? At least with charities, you can see them wanting to do more quicker, if that makes sense. And then with that, like, how does your pacing align with what you're seeing across the sector? Like, what hurdles felt unique to Dogs Trust when you started that work, and like what other non-profits on a similar pace with their sustainability efforts would you say?
So again, from what I mentioned just a minute ago, in terms of when I joined, there seemed to be, among my peers who also joined at a similar time as some of the other animal welfare charities, there seemed to be a bit of a movement at the time, post the lockdowns, for animal welfare charities, I guess you could say the charity sector as a whole, to put more emphasis on sustainability in terms of how it relates to what they do as a charity. So myself and a few of my peers in some of the bigger charities, we started talking to each other, at the beginning of our journey, to try and learn from each other and understand where we are, as charities. And then we used that as an opportunity to kind of create a network among ourselves, but also with the smaller animal welfare charities as well, who aren't in a position to hire someone dedicated to look at this. And it tends to be the responsibility of someone else who is doing another job but is taking it on as well. So we use that as an opportunity to kind of use our collective resources to support each other on this journey. So the timing was great in terms of us all looking at this or starting this at a similar time. And that's why we've used that as an opportunity to kind of grow together on this journey as well. And that's one of the biggest benefits of the charity sector, like compared to working in, the private sector, is that we're not in competition with each other. So we can work together on issues like this, which is really important.
Yeah. So do you get a lot of, collaboration is a massive word in this industry. You hear it all the time. I'm guessing, are you kind of friends with the guys that you're with, the other peers and everything like that? Do you get a lot of communication? Is there a Dogs Trust WhatsApp community chat? Like
like you, as again, for my peers in similar roles in the other charities, we have built strong relationships there because we're all on this journey together in a lot of ways, and that makes it a lot easier to talk and be quite frank about some of the issues that we face, or highlighting opportunities that we can all benefit from. So I think there's been a lot of, I think we've all benefited from joining and starting this journey at a similar time, which has been great.
Fine. So for those of you who can't see, what is the connection between Dogs Trust sustainability strategy and the mission of dogs welfare? Like, how do you explain to stakeholders that a healthy planet is just as important for the dogs that we care for? Obviously, for me, it's probably quite obvious. For you, it's probably quite obvious, but there are some people that don't get it.
Of course, yeah. And that's understandable because there's not much awareness around it in terms of linking, the two. But sustainability and dog welfare are fundamentally interconnected, right? And that's why our mission as a charity, our sustainability mission, is to reduce our environmental impact and also make the most cost-efficient use of our resources so that we can complement our core mission. Because the impact of climate change on our ecosystems is going to have an impact on everybody, and how it will affect dogs could be quite significant because rising temperatures, rising costs, and also increase, or I guess there's going to be a bigger risk of diseases and other health-related issues that are going to impact dogs in the short term, and that's what we want to mitigate, is the risks of climate change becoming more of an obvious problem to everyone, and it will especially become a problem for dogs. So that's why it's important for us as a charity to take that responsibility of reducing our environmental impact, embedding sustainability into everything that we do, so that we're not only setting the charity up for success in the future, but we're also, again, it ties into that, improving dog welfare over for future generations. And that's why it's, they kind of work together in that way, because one complements the other.
Yeah. Have you seen any impact from from stuff that we've done? Have you seen any impact that's happened to dogs, would you say? It's hard to say, obviously, but
exactly, in terms of how you
might imagine how it could affect.
The most obvious ones are the rising costs, or rising operational costs. Of course, caring for dogs is very resource intensive, so there are the challenges that come with that. Increased temperatures, like we're noticing now over the last couple of years,
I'm hot
seasons,
all the time.
Yeah, well, me too. Are becoming a little bit more unpredictable, and summers are getting warmer. And based on the research and the forecasts that are out there, it's only going to get warmer. So if that's the case, then dogs are going to be more at risk of heat stroke and other health-related issues like that. So there are kind of we're seeing the early signs of it, and that's why we're trying to do what we can, again, just from our little perspective, to try and mitigate that. So, but sadly, as if things don't change over time, it is going to be more obvious, exactly, and there will be domino effects as a result of it.
So I can imagine there were a lot of things that you had to start from scratch. Obviously, or maybe even centralizing the initiatives that were in the place before. How did you get the ball rolling at Dogs Trust on its sustainability journey? And how did you balance the immediate needs of the dogs and the long-term sustainability strategies?
So when I came in, obviously my initial plan was to understand, number one, like what are the charity's environmental impacts. Number two, understand what legislative requirements are there for what we do, and making sure that we've got the correct controls in place and that we are compliant. And then finally, setting that long-term direction for the charity. So the first big project that I had to take responsibility for was calculating our carbon footprint, which we called Carbon Pawprint project, because everything at Dogs Trust has to have a dog-related pun.
Unbelievable.
And so that was like the first real big piece of work was understanding what are our biggest sources in terms of the carbon emissions that we generate, and then also understanding through our operational activities what the biggest environmental impacts are. So then we can start. I mentioned earlier, like plugging the gaps of what we're not doing so well, or potentially what we need to be doing to a higher standard, and also at the same time connecting the dots between those areas and where we are doing well, as I mentioned with the centres and the shops, to try and get a bit of an overview of what it looks like across the board at Dogs Trust. So then we're in a better position to work out what those next steps should be from there. So that first 6 to 12 months was just really spent learning and understanding where we are, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and then once we've got that understanding, then developing the roadmap from there.
It's like when you go back to the puzzle, it's you put all the edges round. And then you start building in, sort of thing. It's that kind
exactly.
Of logic.
It's kind of like you look out and then you try
you get all the edges.
That's it,
and
then build around and then fill the middle.
Before you get into the middle. So, what would you say was the biggest hurdle, if you could say?
Oh yeah. So the biggest hurdle for us, and I don't think we're alone in this, was when we were calculating our carbon footprint. Calculating Scope 3 was a big challenge for us because,
like everyone, really.
Exactly. Those indirect emissions from our purchased goods and services, business travel, employee commuting, like some of those bigger Scope 3 categories, which are indirect emissions that the charity generates. Getting good quality data was a real challenge, and that's why it was taking a lot longer than we would like to calculate our carbon footprint for the first time. Mostly because of Scope 3. But that's why one of the key things that we're looking to do over the next couple of years as part of Scope 3 is try to nail down the data collection process, the data quality we're getting from suppliers. We're also looking at different tools that can support us on that journey in terms of making it easier for us to manage and calculate and monitor our Scope 3 carbon emissions. So I think that's been one of the biggest challenges. Of course, there's been plenty of challenges, but for me, in terms of like what's been most time intensive and most painful to do has been Scope 3 for us.
Because I think there's a lot of arguments around reporting as well, that people say that too many people are focusing on reporting and they're not focusing on initiatives and strategies. But I think like you need to do that first, so then you understand the core business, you understand where the risk is, you understand where the problem is. And then we remove, for instance, greening can remove the burden and then go straight into then you can do your real job, which is the management side. Like it's the cool, fun side of
and
sustainability.
then start working to reduce the results of the reporting, right?
Yeah. So you surveyed your employers and found that about 96%, which is pretty incredible, consider sustainability to be important. Like, how did you mobilize people internally? And was there a cultural shift needed to prioritize sustainability? I can imagine 96% was kind of easy to get people on board straight away. How did you go about that? And
well, it isn't a surprise to say that the people that work at Dogs Trust are dog lovers. And you tend to find that people that love dogs also tend to care for the environment as well. So that made my job a lot easier in terms of coming into an environment where they were already going to be receptive towards, sustainability being a core value of the charity.
Internal communication was already there, sort of thing.
Kind of, like the appetite was there, and the receptiveness towards embracing sustainability was there. When I joined, they'd already formed an internal green team of just passionate staff members who would care, who care about the planet, and they wanted to see what Dogs Trust were doing around it. So it was great for me coming in, and again, as someone that's pretty much a one-man band in my role, I rely on the support of the other employees and the other staff at Dogs Trust who are passionate about sustainability. Through the Green Team, they support and volunteer their time on different sustainability projects for the charity. And then also now that we've got the our sustainability action plan, we have 4 working groups that are dedicated on delivering the plan. And we also have a steering group, which is made up of senior stakeholders at the charity who are overseeing their performance to make sure that we are delivering on the commitments and objectives and the targets that we now have for the next 5 years.
And it's quite nice that you probably don't feel like a one-man band. at the same
Yes,
time.
exactly. I mean, it can feel quite overwhelming as one individual looking at the size and the scope of the work that it covers,
and
for the
then knowing you
charity.
can bounce off people. If you've got 96% being keen, they'll probably give you some ideas that have like not really mentioned it before.
Exactly.
And then the team can do sort of cool initiatives, and they're more likely to be onboarded. They're more likely to enjoy it. The more, it's great.
Exactly.
So you released the first sustainability report, as you mentioned. Nice one. Congrats. Can you walk us through, like the key commitments and what that kind of means for the organization? Like, what did you find out and everything like that?
So I guess our North Star for the charity, our two long-term commitments are, number one, to achieve net zero before 2050, which is obviously very aspirational. Or not, I say aspirational.
Like most people, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about us making sure that we are net zero by 2050, because based on the current UK government target, that's the baseline for everyone. I say aspirational because we want to do it a lot sooner than that, but we understand, based on us being a charity and what we do, it's going to be challenging to do that, but we're determined to do it. The second one is to become a sustainability leader in the charity sector, because we want to use our position as one of the larger charities to not only lead by example, but also support other charities as well along their journey in terms of, again, trying to work together and lift the whole sector up rather than us just focusing on ourselves. So we want to try and get to a position where we are demonstrating that leadership position, which is one of our goals. And then for the next 5 years, our shorter term goals are to halve our carbon emissions by 2030. We're looking to also transition to an electric fleet, phase out natural gas sources. We're looking to achieve zero waste to landfill for all of our sites, hopefully this year. And then also we're looking to plant, I think, 10,000 trees by 2030. Nice. So they're some of like the key milestones on our journey that we're looking to hit in the next 5 years. But again, we've got a long way to go. We're off to a good start, but that's the plan anyway.
You've built the ladder, now you just got to climb it step by step, sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. It's great to hear that even sort of like a charity is putting in so much effort and like wanting to do good things and everything like that. Because again, going back, I speak to people and they don't care. And it's kind of scary that some corporates don't care at all. So you mentioned net zero by 2050. What are some of the things, like the key challenges you'll face, do you reckon, that will make this happen? And like, how do you think the dogs you care for will directly benefit from these efforts?
I think some of the challenges we'll face, I mean, I mentioned scope 3 before in terms of like how we tackle that. That's going to be a big one for trying to reach net zero. So there's going to be a lot of work needed to be done to address that. And I think I mentioned before that it's not just us that are have the challenge of scope 3. I think as a collective, like businesses, charities, scope 3 is probably going to be one of the biggest challenges for all of us, depending on the size of your organization. So that's going to be a big one for us. Also, I feel like when it comes to transitioning to an electric fleet, a lot of that's also going to depend on the technological innovations of the next couple of years to see, let's say, for example, if there's better vehicles in terms of electric vehicles as alternative options to what we currently use, because our ambulances, for example, they go up and down the country, so charging infrastructure is going to be key. We've put in charging points at all of our rehoming centres, but at the same time, they're not just going to be based there.
No, they're going to be move around. They're going to be around the country.
And that's just our ambulances. We've got a fleet of vehicles as well. So there's going to be potential challenges along that journey as well. And then
it's the balance with that, isn't it? Really.
Again, and that's why we're optimistic that those technological changes will happen in the next couple of years to make that easier. And then also at the same time, when it comes to phasing out natural gas, we've just started installing air source heat pumps to remove gas boilers at our rehoming centres, and we're looking to do that for all of our rehoming centres. But the challenge for us is going to be it requires financial investment up front to be able to do all of that in the next 5 years. Significant financial investment. So that's why we're looking at our options in terms of how we can get support with that, because again, as a charity, we've got to be mindful in terms of our funds, and we're looking at all options to support us in terms of delivering that. So financially, or finances is always going to be a challenge for a charity as well.
Of course, and it's great that you're doing so much, even probably on a small budget, because I can imagine it's not. I mean, do you get much like help from? I'm guessing the stakeholders and everything like that? Does everybody kind of help you try and deliver these types of roles?
For example, we're working with our fundraising team and
Yeah.
also our, the property team who install, like, for example, our air source heat pumps.
Yeah.
We're working with those different departments
Cool.
to look at how we deliver these types of projects
Yeah.
in that timeline.
Yeah.
So we've got the right people involved, and that's why we've been able to install, those first few air source heat pumps at some of our centres. We just acknowledge that because we've got a 5-year timeline to do it all in,
it's going
to be a race against the clock. Yeah.
So looking ahead, obviously, with this, like, what do you think will be the hardest part of continuing to reduce the emissions? Like, especially as you work towards the full transition for like the electric fleet, like you kind of mentioned, and like removing the natural gas from the operations, are there specific challenges that you think could impact your goals in the short term? So obviously from now till 2030, what do you think is going to be those things that's going to hopefully not, but could stop you?
Again, like, without kind of covering what I just mentioned, but I feel like the key elements for us are going to be the technological innovations, or the technological options available that meet our needs, that allow us to make those transitions in certain areas. Also, at the same time, financially, having the resources to do it. And then, of course, I'll probably say, look at the 5-year timeline that we've set and make sure that it's realistic and that we can deliver on it. And I think that's why when we're thinking about challenges like this, we need to constantly reevaluate where we are and see if it's still doable each year. And that's why, touch wood, we're heading in the right direction and we've made progress in a lot of those areas. We always have to have a sense of realism that there are going to be hurdles and obstacles along the way that might, throw in a curveball that we didn't initially anticipate. So we're trying to keep our feet on the ground as well. Although we have these high ambitions and these aspirational goals that we've set for ourselves, we also have to be, we're trying to also be realistic.
Yeah, of course.
At the same time.
I think that's the going back to the balance and everything with it. And obviously, talking sort of like, let's go to the positive side of it. Your 2024 initiative of like the child turning textiles into dog beds.
Yeah.
Like, how important are creative solutions like this in promoting sustainability? Obviously, that's quite a cool, fun initiative that you're like, yes, I did that. And
it's a nice one.
It's like, what is it like seeing something so practical and innovative make a difference to the daily lives of dogs?
I think that was one where, because I guess our problems are quite niche based on what we do, that we need to find more wacky, out of the box solutions for them. And the opportunity to turn clothing and textiles that we couldn't either sell or use into dog products such as dog beds that we could then provide to our centres and some of our supporters as well, was perfect for us based on what we do.
It's like the Olympics cardboard beds that not everybody was happy with because it was a cardboard bed, but it's that kind of idea.
Yeah, well, luckily the dog beds were more comfortable, I imagine, than those. So the dogs were definitely happy with them. But like, let's say, for example, another unique challenge to us is bag dog poo. So I'm open to suggestions in terms of how we creatively address that, because that's another one that we're, again, unique to us because of the volume that we generate in terms of how we address it. And also, but what we learn and what we try to do internally, we're also thinking about from like a dog ownership perspective of how can then we take these lessons learned or some of the solutions that we find and then potentially, support dog owners in terms of providing more sustainable alternatives to dog ownership than what's currently out there. So that's also in our mind as well in terms of thinking about, what more can we do from a dog ownership perspective or supporting dog owners in terms of addressing sustainability, because it is a big, as an owner of a large dog, it's a challenge. I'm very aware of it.
Yeah, so obviously email Stephen if you have any dog poo initiative bags.
Circular solutions for dog poo.
So looking kind of into the sustainable to action plan and the future goals, your sustainability action plan from 2024 to 2029 is central to your long-term sustainability goals. How do you ensure that day-to-day operations align with the ambitious targets you've set in this plan? Obviously, having 96% of your staff on board helps. You don't have to get the employees on your side. What else have you got going?
So we're in the process at the moment of embedding our sustainability commitments into all of our other policies and SOPs internally at the charity, so that they're all interconnected and they all, support and feed into the delivery of our action plan. And our environmental policy is kind of like a summary of, it declares our intention to be a sustainable charity, and it outlines, the ways that we're going to do it. So we're currently in the process of making sure that our other policies and SOPs reflect that. And then also at the same time, one thing that we are conscious of in terms of looking at it from an engagement perspective for our staff, we do this annual survey every year to see and to get feedback on staff in terms of their awareness and engagement around what we're doing around sustainability, and also to get their feedback on our performance as well. So we want to maintain that engagement with our staff, because it's important to them and it's important to us that they're a part of that journey and they're giving us feedback along the way, if it's good, bad, whatever it is.
Are they really do you get a lot of, I mean, obviously going back to the stat, like, that's great. Do you get a lot of responses for it? Are they kind of helping you with this? Do they give you do they give you like, do they give you ideas and stuff like that?
Yeah,
as well?
like that's kind of the function of the green team, is that for those staff members that volunteer their time to supporting our sustainability projects, some of those projects, or a lot of them, have been driven by ideas based on, or opportunities that they found based on their area of expertise.
Yeah,
whether it be working at our rehoming centre, working, in one of our, working with the dog schools, or working at one of our retail shops. It doesn't matter, I guess, where that person comes from. They offer a unique perspective of where they sit in Dogs Trust.
Yeah.
And they also see, much better than I do, the unique environmental challenges based on what they do.
Yeah, of course.
Because I only have, I guess I have that overview in terms of understanding, some of the key areas across the board. But in terms of like the day to day, they see it, they live
more
it.
Involved
Exactly,
than
and
you
they
would be,
can
sort of
they
thing.
can flag these opportunities to me.
Yeah,
So that's great in terms of being able to address some of the more niche issues that come up along the way.
Yeah, it's amazing that they do, and they're probably like, they love it that you hear them. And actually, like, it's like, cool, let's try and do it. Do you get them involved in like the initiatives as well? Like, would you?
Yeah, we do tree planting every year, so they get hands-on in terms of planting trees, and they also, again, like, take responsibility for delivering and developing sustainability related projects within the charity. So I try to make to what's the word? To get everyone involved in this, because number one, I can't do it myself. Number two, it's important that they feel like they are contributing towards this journey as well, because they are, and that's why it's important.
They probably
that
enjoy
they have
it
that
as well.
opportunity.
Like,
I hope so.
Nice. Yeah. And then going to the tree planting initiative, what role does this play in the broader sustainability vision? Like, how do you plan to expand these efforts in the future? How does this like tie into the larger goals of the charity and the dogs themselves?
Yeah.
Has Sapphire done any planting yet?
No, luckily. Otherwise, I don't know how well that would go. Yeah, she might remove them after we planted them. So I guess the benefit for tree planting, there's a lot of them in terms of, number one, for us at Dogs Trust, I mentioned the rehoming centres, a lot of them in rural locations. So we have a lot of green space. We have woodland in some of our centres, on the land for some of our centres, and we also own the land, so we have the opportunity to plant a lot of trees.
Cool.
And we've benefited a lot from working with the Woodland Trust to get these trees for free, which has been incredible. And we have looked at the benefits of tree planting as being several. For example, number one, there is the benefit to supporting the biodiversity on our rehoming centres once you're planting those trees and once they've grown. Number two, it provides shade for dogs in summer once they've grown.
It's getting hot out there.
It is getting hot, exactly. It helps also in terms of carbon capture. So as those trees grow over time, their ability to capture carbon expands, and that supports our journey to net zero as well. So there's a lot of reasons and motivations for us to plant trees and to continue planting trees for the next couple of years, because there's so many benefits to doing it.
Cool. So going into collaboration then. Hello. Do you want to say something? No? So
Speak.
Yeah, speak.
Speak.
No.
Somebody sit. She's enjoying it.
She's loving it. She's loving it. You can stay there. So talking of collaboration, how does like the sustainability work differ at non-profits like Dogs Trust compared to your corporate roles at Deliveroo? What have you learned from these different environments and the influences your approach to like sustainability in the charity sector? So what would you say you might have brought over from the corporate world.
She can answer for me.
Yeah, please do.
Go on.
What have you brought over from the corporate world, and what is something you might not have brought from the corporate world then, I guess?
I think, again, one of the benefits I've seen in the charity sector is the ability to collaborate and there's that collaboration with other charities because we're not in competition. We work together to address some of these shared challenges that we have and identify. Yes, I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to answer the question unless you want to do it. And there's where was I? Oh yes, sorry. The benefit of charities, like for example, working together to address some of the challenges that we face and identify opportunities that we can all benefit from. I think in terms of how it differs from corporate roles, of course, there's different incentives in terms of where you work, in terms of what are the levers you can pull to get the buy-in in terms of how you address your environment. Yeah, I guess in terms of how you're incorporating sustainability into what that organization does. Like, for example, in other roles, you're probably looking more at the business benefit, the financial benefit maybe, and the environmental benefit being secondary.
Yeah.
And that's still the case for a charity as well, but there's more focus for a charity in terms of, financially, we need to make sure that we're being as cost efficient as possible. We're making the best use of our funds in terms of where they go. And obviously I guess my job is to reduce costs wherever I can, because that will reduce waste and it will reduce our impact. So there is some crossovers. It's just in terms of how you communicate it and how you get the buy-in from different people. It differs because of the environment that you're in.
Did you see it much with employees as well? Would you say that there was less engagement from the corporate world than there was on the charitable work? Okay, because Deliveroo is quite a younger.
Yeah, I was going to say they were quite receptive as well.
Quite receptive
but again, it's a different environment. Deliveroo is, there's a drive for growth and there's a drive for, to scale as fast as possible. And to, financially, there's the priority of, focusing on growing the business in all the different areas with all the different things that they do. Whereas, for example, working at Sodexo, it was a client-facing role. Yeah. So you're more focused on looking at delivering all the deliverables of a contract with the clients that you're working with. Again, how you communicate, how you go about doing that is all slightly different. Whereas this role, again, unique to both of those environments in terms of it being a charity, in terms of dog welfare being our priority in terms of what we do, and how important that is how important the link is for dog welfare to sustainability and protecting the environment. So all very different environments, but that's why I guess you need to work out what is the right way of communicating to get the right buy-in.
And it's great to learn from all different types of those sectors and be able to be a final push into your final what you're in now sort of thing. Like you can learn so many different things from so many different corporates, and like you might some of the stuff you've done here at Dog's Trust or in the future you might have learned from this stuff at Deliveroo and everything like that. And it's just gaining experience, I think, in life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best thing. So going back to collaboration and your collaboration with other nonprofits on sustainability, are there like shared lessons or friendly competition? And obviously you saying that you want to be a leader in the space. What are the organisations like yours that ramp up the efforts, would you say?
I mean, again, it's easier for some of the larger charities to invest time and resources into this because they just have a bigger, they're more capacity to do it. But at the same time, like we've identified areas where we can all contribute towards and all benefit from that would make it easier for us to do as a collective because we probably couldn't do it on our own. Like one of the examples of that was, I think back in 2023 now, we did a sustainability survey of charity supporters to understand their expectations towards non-environmental charities, because it's not something that we fully understood. And this wasn't just among the animal welfare charities, this was with the wider charity sector. So we were looking at it as, as a sector itself. And that was really interesting in terms of understanding like some of the feedback from, those charity supporters on what we should be prioritizing in terms of sustainability. And also balancing cost and sustainability is really important as well. That was one of the key outcomes from the survey was as a charity, they expect us to do that balancing act in terms of, I guess in some cases, depending on what the options are, we have to think about not always choosing the most expensive option and being mindful of, the impact that it has and trying to find the middle ground, the balance that allows us to achieve both. So, and again, doing that survey is a big piece of work. working together as a collective made it financially more affordable for us to
of
do
course.
as a collective rather than
It's
individually.
like sharing the energy as
Yeah,
well. Sort of
exactly.
thing,
So that was another example of the benefits of us working together to do
I
this.
think that's the great thing, that the energy thing now with like PPAs, like long-term purchasing of agreements, of like power purchase agreements, is that you can do aggregated PPAs. So like corporates can purchase a massive long-term energy, and they all get a collective of that energy that's now going into the grid and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it's great with those sort of things. So to conclude, what does it mean for you for Dogs Trust to become a leader in the sustainability, like within the non-profit sector? Like, say 2030, you smashed all your goals, you're doing really well. What's like the next thing, and what would you be most proud of, would you say, being a leader?
I think if we were to achieve all of those goals, I think some of the benefits would be, number one,
You
we
deserve
would
a pint.
have. Sorry?
You deserve a pint.
Exactly. I consider that job well done. But
Firstly.
if we're in that position, then I think the benefits of that would result, from that would be we would have more, I guess, resources and time, and hopefully we've created more opportunities to support what we do as our core mission at Dogs Trust, which is to improve dog welfare. So if we can, again, focus on reducing our environmental impact, reduce our operating costs, if we can be mindful in terms of, I guess what we do as a charity and embed sustainability into that decision-making process, then I'm hoping the end result will be, more opportunities, more resources, better opportunities for not just the dogs in our care, but also supporting dogs at home as well, and across the wide range of services that Dogs Trust offer. So we're hoping that it will, again, ultimately complement what we do, as our core mission for Dogs Trust.
And then where do you see Dogs Trust in the next 10 years? Like, what's the kind of world that you would like to see for the dogs? Like, how will sustainability initiatives shape their lives in the future?
Again, I think in terms of the dog benefits, I'm hoping that will be as a result of the changes that we make over the next 5 years. In terms of where I would like to see us as a charity, I would like us to take that leadership role, lead by example, follow best practice, protect the environment. I want us to be able to be in a position where we are supporting our networks, so not just our supporters in terms of dog ownership, but also suppliers, other charities in the sector. I want us to really, lead by example, I guess, and also be the champions for sustainable dog ownership.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be really important as
Great.
well. It's one thing looking at internally at what we're doing. And I
Mhm.
think it's important that we get our own house in order first before we then start thinking about what do we do around dog ownership in general, and how do we incorporate sustainability into that, and what voice, because we've got a big voice, what role can we play?
Yeah. It's like you could do things for
improving that.
like they could comment your website, and it's like family home, like dog owners at homes, and it's like things you could do at home to help the dogs and everything like that, with those types of, just as an idea.
Like guidance tools, like what
Yeah.
can we provide, what based on what we've learned and what we've done during that time.
Yeah, how can you help everyone else? sort of
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah. So that would be the dream, is to get to that point.
Amazing. So we like to do the debunk the climate skeptic. So I'll kind of give you 2 to 3 questions, and just give me like a quick summary to debunk these lovely skepticals. So sustainability is too expensive for nonprofits, especially in animal welfare.
Number one, if you're working in a role like this, or if you're looking at sustainability for an animal welfare charity, you're not in the business of spending money, you're in the business of trying to save money and also identify opportunities where you can raise money. And one of the things that we have been able to do over the last couple of years is identify opportunities through various recycling schemes that allow the general public to essentially donate items that are difficult to recycle through household means in our retail shops or our rehoming centres, which then we work with a recycling company to recycle those items. And then from the items that are recycled, that equals a donation to the charity as well. So we've been raising, I think we've raised like thousands of pounds through recycling schemes over the last couple of years. So not only have we avoided spending money, we've also found opportunities to raise money. So ultimately, again, thinking about
that money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sustainability being at the core, becoming a core, value for us as a charity, means that we are looking at things in a way where we want to make sure that we are being mindful in terms of every penny that we spend and making sure that we get the most out of it. So it's kind of the opposite of being too expensive. We want to do, we want to save money and make money.
Yeah. And then non-profits can't make a significant impact on climate crisis.
I feel like because there's been a lack of understanding around what, this means for the charity sector. There is less expectation for charities to address it, but we're all going to be impacted by it. And now I think, there's, again, from what I've seen in the last couple of years, my time in this role, is that there's more of a movement now than before for charities to take responsibility of this, not just from the mandatory reporting that's required now, but also in terms of looking at what supporters expect. In terms of, you think about if they're supporting a charity, they want to know, well, what are you doing to address your environmental impact? If you're looking to raise money, or if you're looking at support from donors or whatever it might be, they're going to be looking at your environmental credentials as well. So there's more focus and more emphasis on charities looking at their environmental impact currently than never before. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's just going to increase in terms of the level of expectation required for charities to do it.
Stephen, that was amazing. Thank you so much for all of that information. No, you were incredible. Sapphire, unfortunately, Stephen, she was better than you.
Oh, she's asleep. I think I've talked to sleep.
One of those things you're going to have to accept, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you smash it. I can imagine you're going to smash it. I'm looking forward to seeing the sustainability reports, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do over at Dogs Trust. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. That was Leaf Media Global Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts to never miss an episode. Join our Substack newsletter and find resources in the description. Please leave us a review and share your thoughts and spread the word. See you next time. And don't forget to email Stephen about your dog poo bag initiative.
Open suggestions. Yeah.
Suggestions. Any last words from Sapphire over there? Unbelievable. No, thank you so much. You've been great. Thank you so much, guys.